The story begins with ships firing at an unusual island. This island is not ordinary because it's inhabited by monsters. These creatures are terrifying, and the people on the island rely on hunters to eliminate them. The hunters are ready to take down these monsters, even when faced with giant red ants that appear before them. These ants are huge and scary, but the hunters prioritize fighting them to protect their commander. Unfortunately, the ants turn out to be incredibly powerful, and they start attacking the hunters mercilessly. The leader, who was their hope, lies injured on the ground. He's on the verge of losing consciousness. Just when things seem bleak, a person named Byung arrives and saves the commander from the ants' attack. Byung uses his healing magic to tend to the commander's wounds. However, the stubborn ants continue to attack, and this time, another hunter named Yoonseok uses his thunder power to knock the ants away. Despite their efforts, many ants are still around them. Yeonho, another hunter, uses his incredible strength to fight them off. The hunters protect Byung, who is trying to heal the injured. As they struggle against the ants, a giant white ant, considered the boss of the ants, appears. It's about to crush Yeonho, but he manages to hold its tentacles. Yoonseok takes advantage of the situation and delivers a massive shock to the ant. Yeonho removes its tentacles and creates an opening in its stomach by throwing them inside. Together, they defeat the giant ant. After catching their breath, they prepare to face more white giant ants that come out of their den. These ants are a formidable force, but the hunters are determined to fight back. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi, the commander, uses his fire magic to battle the ants in the city. He succeeds in eliminating many of them, but there's still a large army to contend with. He signals his army to follow his lead. The story then takes us back in time, explaining that many years ago, a portal opened in the world, leading to the appearance of monsters. Conventional weapons proved ineffective against these monsters. Only those with special weapons and fighting techniques, known as hunters, could stand a chance. These hunters are classified based on their abilities, with S rank being the highest and E rank the lowest. Fast forward 3 years, and we see Kim and Park meeting at a hunter spot. They're happy to see each other after a long time. Kim had thought Park had quit hunting, but Park's priority is to earn money, especially with his wife being pregnant. Jinwoo arrives, and it's evident that he's a high-rank hunter based on the respect he receives from those around him. However, Kim clarifies that Jinwoo is the weakest among them, and there's no hope of his promotion. Park teases him, and Kim urges Park to be discreet because they don't want to hurt Jinwoo's feelings. Unfortunately, Jinwoo overhears and acknowledges that he's the weakest among them. Jinwoo encounters Jui, a healer, and greets her warmly. However, she's not in a welcoming mood, likely due to his facial scars. She reprimands him for not taking a healer on their team more seriously. Jinwoo explains that their team, belonging to high-ranking hunters, doesn't need a healer. He knows his abilities and low rank, so he doesn't have any complaints. Despite this, Jui continues to blame him for not taking his life as a hunter seriously, and he apologizes for his mistake. Just then, a man named Mr. Song introduced himself as a team leader, and everyone welcomed him because his rank was higher than theirs. After that, they continued to move toward the portal. Park, who was passing by Jinwoo, advised him to stick with their group to stay alive. As he moved ahead, Jinwoo looked at his weapon, which was not powerful. Instead, it was just an ordinary weapon because he didn't have enough money to buy a high-ranked one. Ignoring his weapon's limitations, he stepped forward towards the portal as he knew that his never-ending war awaited him. On the other hand, the president informed his secretary about the government's demand to prevent further dungeon breaks. They were also demanding precious supplies from the dungeon. Their request wasn't unreasonable because these gems and stones could be used to create unique weapons. The president, known as Go, showed his secretary a crystal derived from a slain magic beast, highlighting its rarity. Meanwhile, Jinwoo looked at the gem in his hand and felt pleased, even though he hadn't killed a high-ranked monster. He had managed to defeat an E-rank monster. However, another monster suddenly attacked him, bringing him out of his imaginary world. Ready to fight back, Jinwoo realized that his dagger didn't support him and had broken. The demon attacked him and started cutting his stomach. Before the demon could succeed, another hunter approached and knocked it down. Later, this hunter moved forward to kill other monsters. Jui, scared as she watched Jinwoo's injuries, moved forward to heal him, confident that she could cure him. Meanwhile, Jinwoo shifted his attention to the hunters with remarkable power, feeling like nothing more than trash before them. Aside from this, President Go explained that with dungeon gems, they could create weapons capable of killing mighty creatures. Additionally, mana crystals were found in dungeons, and weapons could be created from them. However, compared to gem weapons, these mana crystal weapons were not as valuable. Still, they were in great demand, and the government wanted to research them to create lethal weapons. After they killed the last monster, they were satisfied, but not entirely because they still hadn't acquired the precious gems and stones they needed to make more money. Just then, one of the hunters discovered a tunnel, indicating the presence of another dungeon inside. This was a rare occurrence. Leader Song prepared to inform headquarters before taking further steps, but some hunters who could see money in front of their eyes preferred to enter the tunnel. Even Park decided to join them because his wife was pregnant, and they needed a significant amount of money. None of them had any idea about what they were going to face next, but they were confident about the challenges that lay ahead. Song, who wasn't content with their decision, suggested a vote. The vote resulted in a tie because some hunters wanted to enter while others wanted to leave. Everyone had cast their vote except Jinwoo. Song asked Jinwoo to participate, and before refusing, he thought about his mother, who was hospitalized and in need of money for her treatment. He couldn't forget about his sister, who was studying and required financial support. Therefore, he reluctantly gave his approval. They considered it a D-rank dungeon, so they didn't have any other option but to enter. In the company, Mr. Choi is hiring a capable and talented hunter. Instead, they sign a contract with them. On the other hand, a person on a bike snatches a girl's wallet. He feels no regrets and is happy because he plans to have a party. However, his plan is disrupted when he sees a gorgeous girl standing in front of him. He thinks she might be planning to die because she's standing in front of the bike. Just before the bike could hit her, she jumps away like a skilled hunter, winning the hearts of onlookers. As a result, some people in the crowd are injured. A gathering forms around her, and they quickly realize who she is, an S-rank hunter. People look at her as if she's a celebrity. Before the situation worsens, she leaps onto a building and disappears, not giving anyone a chance to ask questions. The people left behind are pleased to have met an S-rank hunter. Meanwhile, it's been almost 40 minutes since they started walking, and they're still looking for their boss. When the portal closes, they'll only have 20 minutes to eliminate the target. While walking, Ju-Jui needs to talk to Jinwoo. Jinwoo notices her concern and apologizes, even though he doesn't fully understand his mistake. Ju-Jui becomes furious and starts insulting him because she feels he has no concern for his life. He recently survived a dangerous situation but seems eager to jump into danger again, despite the scars and wounds all over his body. He refuses to give up. This infuriates Ju-Jui, but Jinwoo can only offer apologies. However, he can't share his sister's and mother's expenses with anyone. Listening to his apologetic words, Ju-Jui calms down a bit. She decides not to forgive him easily and asks him out to dinner. After escaping from that place, Jinwoo is ready for dinner and doesn't fully understand why Ju-Jui is interested in him. After walking for a long while, they finally find a bronze door. But as they look at the elegance of the door, they are stunned because this has never happened before. Some of them prefer to leave without going inside, fearing the unknown. However, those driven by their desire for money can't accept leaving empty-handed. So, despite their fears, they have no choice but to enter. Back in the city, a group of hunters gather for an orientation session. They watch a video of President Go, who explains that the portal they're about to enter has existed for over a decade, and there are still many mysteries within the dungeon. Hunting is a dangerous profession, and even experienced hunters can't afford to let their guard down during a raid mission. They must be cautious. However, in the dungeon, the group of hunters seems to have forgotten these words of caution entirely. They enter a mysterious and dangerous room that has never been explored before. They act as if they're on a casual field trip, showing no sense of the danger that lurks around them. The room contains ancient statues, some of which are holding strange musical instruments. Jinwoo stares at one particularly large statue, feeling uneasy about the eerie silence in the room. Everyone wonders where the boss monster is, and Song notices a magic circle on the ground. His attention is then drawn to a tablet with ancient writings and commandments related to worshipping some kind of god. However, Jinwoo is more concerned about something else. He believes he saw the eyes of the giant statue move, seemingly looking right at them. Jinwoo dismisses this as imagination, but their shock deepens when the door to the room suddenly closes. Panic ensues among the hunters. One woman suggests they might be trapped, but another man shoves her aside, regretting their decision to underestimate the dungeon. He tries to leave, no longer caring about the treasures they hope to find. However, in an instant, half of his body is sliced off by one of the statues. Horror and disbelief grip the remaining hunters as they realize they are facing a formidable enemy. Jinwoo is the most shocked among them, considering that the deceased hunter was of a higher rank than him. He knows he stands no chance against the statues, and the situation makes no sense to him. This dungeon is only supposed to be a D rank, but the statues are anything but ordinary. As chaos unfolds, Jinwoo has a terrifying realization. If one statue can move, then perhaps the others can too. He locks eyes with the giant statue, which seems to return his gaze. His mind races as he contemplates the dire situation they are in. Reflecting on Jinwoo's history, it becomes clear that he has faced numerous life and death situations before. From being separated from his team in his first mission to suffering injuries and hospitalization in encounters with magic beasts, every dungeon expedition is a perilous endeavor for him. Unlike other hunters who acquire gems and invest in better weapons, Jinwoo has only a modest knife and tattered clothes. He endures constant ridicule, relying on keen observation to find ways to survive. Back in the present, Jinwoo's instincts warn him of the impending danger posed by the giant statue. However, his warning comes too late, as the giant statue releases a powerful beam from its eyes, causing massive destruction. Panic and disbelief grip the team as they realize the direness of their situation. Ju trembles with fear, and Jinwoo is left shocked, knowing that they are trapped with no way out, and their lives are in grave danger. After witnessing the powerful attack, the group debates whether to flee, fearing further attacks. Song advises everyone to stay still to avoid provoking another assault. He commends Jinwoo, acknowledging that they all would have been in grave danger if not for Jinwoo's alertness. Jinwoo, noticing Song's missing arm, attends to him. Song downplays his injury, requesting Jinwoo's help to stop the bleeding. He had hoped to ask Ju, a B-rank healer, but she struggles under pressure, which limits her to easier raids. Song notes that while he has experienced B-rank dungeons, the creature they encountered could be O or even S-rank. Song then recites the Carton and Temple's commandments, which include revering God, praising Him, and proving faith. Those who fail to obey these laws will not survive in this place. Jinwoo wonders if the massive statue they saw represents the God mentioned in the commandments. The narrative then shifts to explain that 10 years ago, gates connecting their world to an alternate dimension appeared, leading to supernatural occurrences worldwide. These events gave rise to individuals with special powers, known as hunters, responsible for battling the creatures inside dungeons. A hunter's power, once awakened, remains constant. However, some gates hide monsters that evoke a fear beyond the ordinary. We then see that Jinwoo's sister, Jinna, is at school when one of her friends arrives late. The friend curiously asks if Jinna's brother is a hunter. Jinna confirms, mentioning he's an E-rank and often gets injured, recently coming home covered in bandages. She inquires why her friend is interested, and the friend nonchalantly suggests she could do better than Jinna's brother. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Song acknowledges the overwhelming power of the creature they face. He suggests they regroup and find an escape. Another person trapped in the dungeon, not wanting to die after just securing a contract with a major guild, believes he can escape by running at full speed, confident in his swiftness. However, as he attempts to flee, the statue instantly incinerates him. Song realizes they are at the mercy of this powerful entity, and Jinwoo ponders why it hasn't killed them all yet. Recalling the commandments, Jinwoo asks Song to repeat the first one. Song replies that it's to revere God. Jinwoo theorizes that the dungeon operates under its own set of rules. He tries standing up, causing the statue's eyes to glow ominously. Quickly sitting back down, the statue returns to its normal state. Jinwoo then instructs everyone to bow their heads to the statue. The group is confused, not fully understanding his reasoning. Song asks Jinwoo if he's figured something out. Jinwoo explains that the statue won't attack as long as they keep their heads bowed in reverence, following the commandment to revere God. Everyone imitates Jinwoo, bowing their heads. The statue's sinister expression seems to soften, and Park, noticing the statue isn't reacting, bravely stands up. To their relief, the statue remains passive, and the rest of the group also stands. They question if the danger has passed, but Jinwoo reminds them there are still 2 more commandments to consider. Suddenly, the statue comes to life and starts moving. Song asks Jinwoo for a plan, and Jinwoo admits he doesn't have one but emphasizes the importance of adhering to the commandment. The second commandment, to praise God, becomes their focus, but they are unsure how to do it. A hunter, knowledgeable in ethnology, volunteers to try praising the statue using traditional extollments. Unfortunately, his prayers don't affect the statue, which brutally crushes him. The horrifying sight causes the others to scatter in fear. Park, desperate to survive for his family's sake, approaches another statue, hoping for safety. Tragically, this statue swiftly cuts him in half, leaving the group in shock and dismay. While running alongside Juhi, Jinwoo ponders how they can fulfill the commandment to praise the statue. He knows he can't leave Juhi behind and desperately searches for a clue. Meanwhile, the statues continue their deadly rampage, claiming more hunters' lives. Observing closely, Jinwoo notices a key difference. Some statues wield weapons, while others hold musical instruments. He directs everyone towards the statues holding instruments. Song approaches one, and to their relief, the instrument begins to play. The other hunters replicate this, but the instrument of Jinwoo's chosen statue remains silent. Jinwoo quickly deduces the problem. It's inactive because 2 people are standing in front of it. He decides to leave Juhi there and move to another instrument statue, even as the giant statue chases him. The colossal statue attempts to crush Jinwoo, but he agilely dodges the attack. However, he inadvertently lands near a weapon-bearing statue and narrowly escapes its assault, sustaining some injuries. Despite his wounds, Jinwoo crawls towards a different instrument statue. As the giant statue lunges for another attack, Jinwoo evades it and reaches the instrument statue, triggering its music. The giant statue halts its aggression and returns to its throne. Jinwoo understands that playing the instruments is the way to praise the entity, as required by the commandment. Juhi rushes over to Jinwoo, finding that one of his legs is missing. She attempts to heal him, but Jinwoo cautions her against overexerting herself. Ignoring his warnings, Juhi pushes her powers to the limit, causing her to bleed and eventually forcing her to stop. Kim, overwhelmed by the dire situation, remarks that it feels like a nightmare. He comments regretfully on Song's lost arm, attributing it to Song's rash decision as their leader. He suggests it's a result of karma. The others quickly remind Kim that he was the one pushing to enter the dungeon, but Kim argues that they all agreed on it together. Song, taking responsibility, admits the final decision was his. Jinwoo, sensing the urgency, refocuses the group, reminding them there's still one commandment left. Suddenly, an altar materializes in the room's center. The group is puzzled, but Jinwoo explains it's an altar for offerings to gods, used for treasure and sacrifices. He connects this to the third commandment, the need to prove their faith. Kim suggests a sacrifice is necessary, and, pointing his sword at Song, implies Song should take responsibility for his actions. Song, accepting his fate, approaches the altar, ready to sacrifice himself. Jinwoo internally debates this, believing the situation isn't solely Song's fault since they had voted on their action. As Song nears the altar, a flame ignites beside it, causing confusion among the group. Song looks to Jinwoo, unsure if further action is needed. Jinwoo, deep in thought, requests 2 hunters to escort him to the altar for a closer examination. The group is concerned about potential attacks, but Jinwoo reassures them. Approaching the altar, 3 more flames appear. Song asks Jinwoo if he has figured anything out, but Jinwoo admits he hasn't. He questions whether waiting would lead to rescue, but Song pessimistically notes that the gate has been open for a week, and the statues might reactivate before help arrives. Jinwoo reflects on the dungeon dynamics, realizing that a gate fully opens in 7 days, leading to a dungeon break. This event allows monsters to cross into their world. The main goal of raids is to defeat the dungeon boss and close the gate in time. Failure to do so in their current predicament would mean the monstrous entity could invade their world. In the hospital, Jia is visiting her mother, who is unconscious in her bed. Jia chats away happily to her unresponsive mother, sharing stories about her day. Meanwhile, in a mysterious dungeon, Jinwoo gathers everyone around an altar. He suspects that for each person present, a flame will light up, possibly leading to something happening. As everyone gathers close, individual flames light up, and then blue flames appear, signaling the opening of the room's door. The once still statues begin to ominously move towards the altar, causing confusion among the group. Jinwoo, having observed the pattern, instructs everyone to keep their eyes fixed on the statues, explaining that they only move when not being watched. The group follows Jinwoo's instruction, halting the statues. However, fear overcomes one of the hunters, who runs out of the gate. This causes one of the flames to extinguish, slightly closing the gate. This development leads the group to question their situation. Jinwoo notices the blue flames gradually fading over time. He deduces that the dungeon might be a trap, using danger to create false hope and test their faith. When another hunter leaves, Jinwoo warns the remaining group about potential blind spots and reassures them that as long as they keep watching the statues, they'll be safe. He believes that the blue flames act as a timer, and their extinguishing will signal their escape. Kim, acknowledging Jinwoo's crucial role in their survival, feels torn between staying and returning to his family. He decides to leave, hopeful for a reunion with his loved ones. Jinwoo, despite the dwindling numbers, remains determined to find a way out. Song then urges Jinwoo and Juhi to escape, saying the door will remain open as long as someone stays behind. As Juhi attempts to help Jinwoo leave, she collapses, likely due to overexertion from her earlier healing attempts. Jinwoo, now faced with a difficult decision, contemplates their next move in the perilous dungeon. In the dire situation, Jinwoo urges Song to escape with Juhi, insisting he's the only one who can carry her out safely. Despite Juhi's reluctance, Jinwoo reassures her by promising a meal out and gives her an essence stone to buy dinner, playfully saying he'll ask for the change later. Juhi protests, but Song quickly knocks her out, facilitating their escape. Left alone, Jinwoo reflects on his fate, regretting not having better insurance and vowing to take down at least one enemy with him. However, his efforts to fight back are futile against the overpowering statues, which soon dismember and beat him mercilessly. Amidst the pain, Jinwoo thinks about his desire to be stronger and his limited success. He recalls Kim's words and understands Kim's need to return to his family, acknowledging that often the most selfish are the ones who benefit. Jinwoo, too, realizes he doesn't want to die. In the critical moment, as the statues prepare for a final blow, time runs out, and they halt. Suddenly, Jinwoo sees a notification about a quest, offering him the chance to become a player. The message warns of imminent death if he declines. With only a fraction of a second to decide, Jinwoo chooses to accept, embracing this unexpected opportunity for survival. We then see that the screen says that he have become a player, and son Jinwoo wakes up in a hospital, surprised to see his previously severed limbs perfectly attached, with no signs of the fatal chest wound he remembers. Confused, he wonders if it was all a dream. But then two members of the Hunter Association's surveillance team, Woo Jinchul and Kang Taeshik, visit him. They inform Jinwoo that he has been unconscious for 3 days. He's relieved to hear that his fellow hunters, Juhee and Song Cheol, survived the incident, though Cheol lost an arm and might retire, and Juhee is undergoing psychiatric treatment, uncertain if she'll continue hunting. Jinchul reveals that only 6 survived the double dungeon incident, a rarity with such tragic outcomes. By the time the White Tiger Guild investigated, based on survivors' alerts, all they found was Jinwoo alone, with no evidence of the described temple and statues. This baffles Jinwoo, but Jinchul confirms the survivors' accounts align, avoiding suspicion on them. Jinchul then speculates Jinwoo might have experienced a second awakening, a rare phenomenon allowing hunters to surpass their initial power, possibly reaching SSS-Rank. To test this, Jinwoo is asked to use a manometer. If his survival against supposedly deadly magical beasts was true, it might indicate a significant power, implying an SSS-Rank's involvement. However, Jinwoo's mana score is only 10, far below expectations, deflating his hopes of a second awakening. Apologizing for their mistake, Jinchul and Taeshik leave, puzzled over how Jinwoo survived, labeling him nearly as weak as a civilian. Son Jinwoo feels disappointed that the Hunter Association representatives didn't inquire about the mysterious pop-up window only he seems to see, questioning if he's the only one who can perceive it. Realizing it doesn't respond to touch, he recalls encountering something similar before. His sister, Jinna, visits, scolding him for his recklessness and threatening to quit school to work if such an incident recurs. Jinwoo, feeling guilty for nearly leaving his sister behind, tests if Jinna can see the pop-up by asking her about notification reading in games. Following her clueless response, Jinwoo commands aloud to open the message box, which surprisingly works, revealing messages addressing him as a player. As Jinna leaves with her friend Seong, Jinwoo explores more pop-ups, learning the system aims to aid a player's development, warning of penalties for non-compliance. He discovers a daily strength training quest with physical exercise, puzzled by the unrealistic expectations while hospitalized. Meanwhile, Jinchul reports to Chairman Gunhee that Jinwoo hasn't undergone a second awakening. Relieved yet puzzled by the incident's oddities and lack of a dungeon break, Gunhee instructs marking this as a special case for further investigation. Jeongdan asks Hyein if she could join the upcoming B-rank raid as a guide. He tells her the raid is both a test and hands-on training for newcomers. Hyein isn't sure she's cut out to be a guide. Jeongdan assures her that simply by fighting as she always does, she'll set a great example for everyone. He reminds her that their Hunters Guild is among the top 5 in the city, yet it doesn't stand out on a global scale. While they can't boost their ranks individually, they can still improve as a team to be prepared for future challenges. Suddenly, a gate appears in the middle of a road, causing trouble for the city's residents, who hope the hunters will deal with it soon. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Jinwoo's time for his daily quest expires, triggering an earthquake in his room. He falls from his bed to find himself in a desert, realizing he's been transported as a penalty for not completing his quest. He must survive here for 4 hours. Back in the hospital, a nurse checks on Jinwoo, only to find his room empty. As Jinwoo flees from a giant centipede, he wonders how many there are. With 2 hours still to go, nurses search the hospital for him. He narrowly escapes being eaten by one of the centipedes when his time runs out, and he's transported back to the hospital, where he collapses from exhaustion. The nurses eventually find him back in his room. After a few days, Jinwoo tells Jinna he's getting better and will be discharged soon. Meanwhile, Juhee receives an invite to a D-rank dungeon raid but declines. The caller mentions Jinwoo's awakening, which delights Juhee. She visits him with flowers, sees him running in the garden, and learns from the nurses that he's been exercising to get back in shape since waking up. Deciding not to disturb him, Juhee leaves. Jinwoo then takes a moment to rest, reflecting on the 4 days since he regained consciousness and his realization that the quest windows he sees are real. He understands now that completing daily quests rewards him with full recovery, ability points to enhance his strength, and access to a skill inventory. This new reality amuses him, even if it makes others think he's odd for laughing by himself. Jinwoo reveals the last reward from his daily quest is a mystery box. When he opens it, he finds a key inside. Up until now, he's only received trivial items like bandages and pens, but this time, he discovers the key can teleport him to a special dungeon from exit 3 of the Hapjeong subway station. Curious, Jinwoo wonders about this instance dungeon and guesses it's an opportunity for him to get stronger. Meanwhile, a news report talks about the gates that have appeared in various cities, warning of possible traffic jams in those areas. The story then shifts to Jinwoo visiting his ill mother, recalling that her illness began 4 years ago when she suddenly fell into a coma. The doctors diagnosed her with eternal sleep disease, a condition that emerged alongside the gates, affecting one in tens of thousands. They suggested it might be linked to mana exposure, with life support being the only aid modern medicine could offer. This situation led Jinwoo to take up work at a construction site until he awakened as a hunter. Excited by his new abilities, he shared with his sister their newfound hope for affording their mother's medical expenses. Despite his sister's concerns about the dangers, Jinwoo assured her he could handle it. However, it soon became clear that Jinwoo struggled against monsters, often holding back his team. After completing another round of daily quests, he decides to invest his ability points into increasing his strength yet again. Jinwoo heads to Hapjeong Station, believing he can escape if the situation gets too risky. Upon using a special key, a gate to another dimension appears, and he steps through it, the entrance ceiling shut behind him. Inside, he realizes he's in an instance dungeon, distinct from the normal ones he's familiar with, where the only escape options are defeating the dungeon boss or using a teleportation stone. Worried about his ability to confront a dungeon boss given his past difficulties with even low-level monsters, Jinwoo has no choice but to proceed. Inside the dungeon, he encounters 3 goblins. Initially, he can only dodge their attacks, but frustration fuels his determination, allowing him to defeat them one by one, boosting his confidence. However, his triumph is short-lived as a steel fang lichen attacks, easily breaking his blade. The lichen's strength overwhelms Jinwoo, leaving him paralyzed with fear and unable to move, a stark reminder of his vulnerabilities without a healer by his side. As the lichen launches another attack, Jinwoo faces the harsh reality of his situation. As the wolf-like creature, the lichen, charges at Jinwoo, he quickly uses his newfound agility to dodge its attacks. He notices that his body feels lighter than usual, and despite the fear, he decides not to give up this second chance at life. In a daring move, Jinwoo rushes towards the lichen, landing a powerful punch that sends it flying. Surprisingly, steam rises from the impact, making Jinwoo realize that he has gained strength. However, he acknowledges that the lichen is still much stronger than him. When the lichen charges again, Jinwoo attempts to counter with punches, but they prove ineffective. Forced to dodge, he understands that defeating the lichen will require some help. Lacking a party, Jinwoo decides to use his resources wisely. He runs, but the lichen claws at his shin, prompting him to create distance. Faced with the realization that he can't keep dodging forever, he wishes for a magical weapon. Recalling his secret inventory, he retrieves a magic sword. As the lichen lunges once more, Jinwoo skillfully slices it in 2, receiving a level-up notification. Confused about how the expensive sword ended up in his inventory, Jinwoo chooses not to dwell on it. His wounds heal, and despite the appearance of 2 more steel fang lichens, Jinwoo remains confident with his newfound weapon. Attempting to lift the sword from the ground, Jinwoo realizes it won't budge. Panic sets in as the lichens approach, and he desperately pleads for the sword's cooperation. On the final attempt, the sword dislodges just in time. As the lichens close in, Jinwoo swings the sword, defeating one and skillfully kicking the other to prevent damage to his valuable weapon. Unfazed by the appearance of another lichen, Jinwoo confidently faces it, knowing that these creatures are nothing compared to the challenges he faced in the secret room. The magic sword, now a powerful ally, gives him a newfound sense of assurance as he prepares for whatever challenges lie ahead. Jinwoo faces the lichen, but it quickly turns and runs away. Deciding to take a break, he leans against the wall and realizes he's now at level 2 after engaging in actual combat, unlike the daily quests that never caused him to level up. His wounds heal, and he notices that all his stats have increased by 1 point, making a total of 5 points, which is more than what he gained from daily quests. Curious about how much stronger he can get with each stat increase, he speculates that the higher his basic ability in a stat, the more points he can earn. Despite the newfound strength, he remains grounded, not wanting to get carried away by defeating only 5 small monsters. Eager to collect rewards, Jinwoo checks for magic gems on the lichens, but instead, he receives a wolf fang as an item. Wondering about the in-game economy, he attempts to buy something from the shop screen, only to find out that new players cannot make purchases. Opting to sell the fang, he receives 20 gold coins, though he ponders on their real-world value in an E-rank dungeon. Facing the challenge of finding the dungeon boss or the teleportation stone, Jin Woo acknowledges his uncertainty about defeating the boss alone but believes in his chances as he continues to level up. Suddenly, he notices an entire pack of lichens emerging from the shadows. Unfazed, Jin Woo charges at them in defiance. Engaging in a battle with the lichens, he slashes and slices through their attacks. Even when surrounded, he remains fearless, hoping the lichens provide a worthy challenge and don't die too easily. As he battles, memories of his past flash before his eye, and a smile crosses his face. Relishing the fight, he levels up during the battle, ultimately defeating the entire pack and earning the title of Wolf Assassin. Jin Woo, exhausted and sweating, takes a moment to catch his breath after a challenging battle in the dungeon. He notices that his sword is nearly broken and reflects on the expendable nature of his weapons. Examining his inventory, he finds items obtained from the battle and those remaining from his previous adventures. Surprisingly, he discovers the teleportation stone, a valuable item, and contemplates leaving the dungeon. However, the desire to become stronger pulls him back, and he wonders if the dungeon will disappear like a time-limited event if he exits. Feeling toyed with by an unknown force, he stores the teleportation stone in his inventory and resolves to go deeper into the dungeon. Meanwhile, Juhai receives a call from the Hunter Association requesting her assistance in a nearby dungeon that has experienced a break. Despite apologizing for her earlier actions, she agrees to help due to the shortage of healers. As Jin Woo progresses deeper, he faces new creatures, defeating them and leveling up in the process. He takes note of the color of their names, indicating their relative strength. Initially facing a red named lichen, he now encounters white named ones, showcasing his growing power. Reaching a flight of stairs, Jin Woo hesitates, realizing he can't defeat the monster waiting at the end. Examining his stats, he notices his level hasn't increased recently, and his sword is on the verge of breaking. Despite the challenges, he descends the stairs and finds the environment has changed. The peaceful train station ambience is replaced by a rushing sound, and a powerful monster, a water snake, appears. Jin Woo recognizes that they are at the same level. Attempting to engage the snake with his sword, he realizes it's ineffective against the snake's scales. The snake attacks swiftly, forcing Jin Woo to dodge and strategize. Despite his efforts, the snake knocks him into the water, presenting a new challenge. Jin Woo manages to escape the water, but the relentless snake continues its assault. The battle intensifies as the snake's attacks become faster and more aggressive. As Jin Woo struggles to fend off the snake, he faces a moment of vulnerability. The snake smacks him with its tail, sending him flying. Jin Woo, feeling powerless against the formidable opponent, recalls the words of Gunhee, who encouraged him to work hard and change the perception that labeled him the weakest hunter. In a desperate attempt, Jin Woo grabs his broken sword, questioning how much stronger he must become to overcome constant challenges and ridicule. The snake relentlessly attacks, pinning him against the wall and crushing him, creating a tense and precarious situation. Jin Woo felt the weight of a hurtful nickname, the weakest hunter. Being weak in a world where strength is valued made people look down on him, even if he was smart. Realizing that overwhelming power often overcomes the weak, Jin Woo decided he didn't want to be considered gentle anymore. He wanted strength. That's why he entered the dungeon. With determination, Jin Woo faced a monstrous water snake in battle. Channeling an inner strength, he leaped at the snake like a possessed force, attempting to climb its massive body. The snake, however, knocked him away. Undeterred, Jin Woo stood up, vowing not to give up until he became stronger, a determination that manifested in a blue aura surrounding him. Blocking the snake's attacks, Jin Woo wore down its tough scales. Feeling like he needed to give more, he put in extra effort. Compared to facing a powerful being he considered akin to God, the snake seemed insignificant. Taking advantage of an opening, Jin Woo jumped into the air, driving his sword into a vulnerable spot in the snake's scale. The battle continued with Jin Woo slicing the snake's side to further weaken its scales. In a daring move, the snake opened its mouth wide, swallowing Jin Woo whole. His sword flew into the air, but Jin Woo clung to it. Using his strength, he crushed the snake's scale from the inside, causing harm to the creature. Despite the snake's attempts to dislodge him, Jin Woo held on tightly. With unwavering determination, he pressed down on the snake's neck with all his power until he emerged victorious. The battle resulted in Jin Woo leveling up, a moment that brought a smile to his face. It was a tangible sign of his growing strength. As a reward for his triumph, Jin Woo obtained a powerful dagger, twice as strong as his previous sword, equipped with paralysis and bleeding effects. Additionally, he acquired a vial containing the snake's venom, which he considered overpowered in its effects. A notification signaled the dungeon's reset after the boss's defeat, returning the station to its normal state. Jin Woo steps out into an empty area, curious about the time. A soldier approaches, asking why he's there and if he missed the announcement. Seeing Jinwoo's sword, the soldier recognizes him as a hunter and apologizes, offering to take him to the dungeon break site. The soldier explains the dungeon break situation, mentioning that most monsters have been defeated, except for a giant magic beast, the dungeon boss. Despite the distance, Jinwoo can sense the boss's magical aura. The massive magic golem is engaged in battle with hunters, while the police keep citizens behind barricades. Upon reaching the site, Jinwoo observes the lack of teamwork among the present hunters. Most are low-ranked, and the battles only prolonged due to a higher-ranked tank. Looking at the healers, he notes 2 in D rank and 1 in B rank. The B rank healer, Juhee, is not helping as she's dazed and still shaken from her encounter with God. Attempting a healing circle, she loses concentration, breaking the circle. Jinwoo empathizes with Juhee but is no longer scared, considering they face a D-rank monster, lower than the one he recently defeated. Ready to act, he rolls up his sleeves, preparing to jump into action. The hunters struggle, hoping for a higher-ranked comrade. Knowing he can defeat the monster by breaking its defense, Jinwoo decides to strike with his most powerful hit. Throwing his sword with tremendous force, he shatters the golem's defense. The hunters capitalize on the opportunity, successfully defeating the golem. The tank questions how they suddenly succeeded after their previous ineffective attacks. Curious about Jinwoo's involvement, the tank asks the soldier who brought him, but Jinwoo has disappeared. Terrified by Jinwoo's power, the tank wonders if he is a high-ranked hunter. Jinwoo appears much stronger, though he didn't expect to break the monster's defense with just 1 hit, suspecting the golem's vitality was already low before his strike. The hospital nurses chat about Jinwoo's fit body and cuteness while he does his morning workout. They're surprised by how buff he's become compared to when he first arrived. One nurse accidentally walks in on him shirtless, and Jinwoo quickly apologizes. She notices his muscles and wonders if he always had such a good physique. After snapping back to reality, the nurse informs Jinwoo that it's his discharge day. Checking if he's comfortable, Jinwoo assures her of his full recovery. She instructs him to complete discharge procedures at the counter when ready. He thanks her for the care and starts to leave the room. Just then, the girl shows him her phone and asks if she can have his phone number. Jinwoo believes that she wants to send his test results, which are due later today, and gives her his phone number, saying that he has no problem if she's okay with it. Meanwhile, a TV show features Yuno, one of the SSS-Rank hunters, discussing his life outside missions. He emphasizes the importance of daily training, explaining his background as a former firefighter. Jinna, watching the news, realizes she's late for school and hurries out, exchanging well wishes with Jinwoo. Jinwoo is patting his stomach, and Jinna notices his toned abs showing through his shirt. She asks if he's been exercising, and he replies with just a little. Jinna observes the height difference between them and wonders if his increased height is a result of his training. Before heading out, she goes to put on her school shoes, and Jinwoo hands her an umbrella she forgot. He playfully nudges her towards the door, and she bids him goodbye. Once she's gone, Jinwoo heads to the living room, checking his daily tasks. He has completed the others, except for running, which he plans to do later. Examining his stats, he notices unallocated points. Understanding the need for strength, agility, and perception, he decides to distribute the points among these attributes. A call from his landlord interrupts his thoughts. The landlord inquires about the rent, and Jinwoo admits he hasn't paid for the month yet. Promising to transfer the money, Jinwoo ends the call with the landlord expressing appreciation for his prompt response. Jinwoo is grappling with uncertainty about a potential second awakening, but he's now capable of swiftly defeating goblins, opening up opportunities for him to earn a living. Seated on his couch, he navigates through available dungeons, recognizing the need for a high-level one to yield substantial rewards. However, his low rank poses a barrier to accessing such dungeons. The idea of undergoing a reevaluation crosses his mind, envisioning a higher rank that would thrust him into the spotlight. With increased attention, the potential for earning more money emerges. Yet, Jinwoo is aware that individuals with a second awakening are rare, and hunters whose stats increase with level are practically non-existent. Cognizant of the intrusive nature of media scrutiny, he decides to abandon the notion of seeking higher recognition. He decided to keep his abilities under wraps until he fully grasps them. Jinwoo receives a surprising notification on his phone. Startled, he hastily dresses and heads to a specific location. While accomplishing his daily task, he is on the verge of claiming his reward when a man suddenly calls out to him. Gong-suk introduces himself to Jinwoo. Realizing Jinwoo is an E-rank adventurer, Gong-suk's party members recognize him as the infamous weakest hunter. Despite one member laughing at Jinwoo's nickname, Gong-suk reprimands them and apologizes for their behavior. He then invites Jinwoo to join their dungeon raid to bolster their numbers. Gong-suk allows Jinwoo to accompany them but clarifies that he won't receive any loot, only a commission for his services. Examining the group, Jinwoo notices 4 C-rank hunters and 2 who are D-rank or lower. Curious about Jinwoo's role, Gong-suk explains that he'll be responsible for carrying their luggage and belongings during the expedition. Jinwoo inquires if there's a healer in the group. The man explains that private teams like theirs find it challenging to recruit healers, but manage without one. Despite Jinwoo's concern, the man hands him the contract, which states the party won't be responsible for any injuries he sustains. Jinwoo signs it, and another hunter named Jinho introduces himself as a D-rank member brought in to fill their numbers. Impressed by Jinho's equipment, Jinwoo assumes he's from a wealthy family. They equip their gear and head out. Jinho asks if the bags are too heavy, but Jinwoo assures him they're fine. They reach the gate, and despite its immense size, they doubt it's a C-rank gate. Gong-suk explains it was ranked by investigators. Jinho questions entering the large gate, and Jinwoo clarifies that only the magic flux matters. He adds that gates with a rank below C aren't very dangerous. Jinho is amazed by Jinwoo's knowledge, who mentions his experience as a hunter. Admitting it's his first time entering a C-rank dungeon, Jinwoo assures them it's safe. Gong-suk leads the party through the gate, finding darkness inside. He instructs a member to cast light, surprised by the absence of monsters and luminescent stones, which are typically found in dungeons. Jinwoo recalls entering another completely dark dungeon in his memory. Jinho, curious, asks Jinwoo about luminescent stones, and he explains they are glowing rocks often found in cave-like dungeons, emitting light from the floor or roof. Jinho, still bewildered by the abundance of gems and stones associated with dungeons, receives assurance from Jinwoo that he will become accustomed to it. As they venture deeper into the cave, Jinho remains surprised by the absence of any visible threats. Wondering if dungeons can exist without monsters, he questions Jinwoo, who instructs him to keep quiet. Jinwoo, using his acute hearing, detects hidden monsters choosing to remain concealed. Gong-suk prepares the party for an imminent battle. Jinwoo is astonished to find that the monsters move together, rushing towards any light source. He identifies them as insect-type magic beasts, and the party, not thrilled about facing insects, examines the holes, anticipating the insect attacks. Unease spreads as the insect sounds draw nearer. Jinwoo listens carefully, pinpointing the insects in a hole above the party. Gong-suk decides to attract the insects with his taunt skill, while others attack from behind. Jinho urges Jinwoo to stay by his side for protection. The party successfully executes their strategy, defeating the insects with coordinated teamwork. Impressed, Jinwoo feels a twinge of frustration. After the victory, Gong-suk queries Jinwoo about how he predicted the insect's approach. Jinwoo explains it was his intuition. One of the party members calls out to Gong-suk, and they notice the insects were killed by something that bit them, not their swords or magic. They suspect a monster preying on the insects. Jinwoo advises Jinho to be cautious due to his expensive gear. At the association gym, hunters working out hear a huge explosion. Some are surprised, but one hunter mentions it's their guild master's workout routine. They are impressed, but Yunho thinks it's not enough for a warm-up. Jinwoo shares more about dungeons with Jinho and questions if he can handle the luggage in such a massive dungeon. Jinwoo insists he's fine earning without fighting, but he's suspicious of the too-good-to-be-true deal. He remains uneasy about the lack of a healer in the group and the need to fabricate monsters. Discovering more half-dead insects increases their suspicion, thinking the dungeon boss is nearby. About to move forward, Gong-suk asks his party member to light up the cave. They proceed, cutting through cobwebs, anticipating the boss room. They find numerous mana crystals, sparking dreams of newfound wealth among the group. Everyone fantasizes about what they'll do with their potential fortune. Jinho examines Jinwoo's contract and suggests he gather crystals since they aren't considered spoils. Jinho is assured by Gong-suk that Jinwoo will get his share after defeating the boss. They plan to move the crystals before defeating the boss, as the dungeon gate will close. Taking advantage of the boss's sleep, they decide to proceed. Gong-suk realizes they lack the necessary tools left at their car and instructs Jinho and Jinwoo to stay back while they retrieve them. Jinho is uneasy, but Gong-suk assures him they're safe as the boss is asleep. Though C-rank dungeons typically require 8 people, Jinwoo recalls Gong-suk saying they've always managed with 6 members, wondering about the absence of regulars to fill the gap. Leaving the room, Gong-suk orders one member to seal it off. Realizing the betrayal, Jinho attempts to break through the wall to no avail. The dungeon boss awakens and approaches them. Feeling powerless, Jinwoo recalls his encounter with God and gains confidence. He instructs Jinho to step back as he prepares to face the monster with his sword from the inventory.